Good to go. We recording too?
Not yet.
Yes. All right, perfect. Hello and welcome to another week of the Lost Confederacy channel. This is week 4. What'd you say?
Oh, what you got? Hold on.
We good or not? Okay. Okay, got it on my head. All right, perfect. Hello and welcome to another week of the Lost Confederacy channel. This is week 4 of the 13-week fiscal program for recovery of American prisoners of war. Today, we have myself, Chief BACO. We also have Chief Quiet Water as well as Chief Alligator. And here, as always, we focus more so on that first letter in the acronym APOW, which is American. Starting off this week, we'll have Chief Quiet Water with this week's American Inventor.
All righty. So this week, I am going to do Frederick McKinley Jones.
For recovery of American prisoners of war.
Oh, hold on one second. Okay, I'm sorry. So this week I'm going to do Frederick McKinley Jones, and we've done him before with a different invention. So he was most widely known for the refrigeration invention in regards to keeping air conditioning unit for military field hospitals, refrigerators for the military field, a self-starting gas engine, and just different things. He has like over 61 patents, and 40 of them are for refrigeration technology. But this week, I am going to do the ticket dispensing machine. Self-starting. The patent date for that is 6/27/1939, and the patent number is US 2163754. And basically, it was a machine that basically box offices or movie theaters would use to dispense tickets. So it would shift one ticket, it would cut it, and they would give you the ticket. So it just kept it, in alignment. Each ticket was just like you see today, basically. And so let me see, Frederick McKinley Jones, he was born in Covington, Kentucky, May 17th, 1893, and he died February 21st, 1961. And also he co-founded the Thermo King, actually, which is a refrigeration company. And that's it.
Thank you, Chief Quiet Water. Excellent inventor for this week. Next, we'll have Chief Alligator with this week's Dr. Woodson quote. Let me pull up that as well for you.
All right, let's scroll up. Hold on. Scroll up a little bit more. I think it's between quotes 1 through 3. Okay. Number 3, I'm gonna do number 3 today. In honor of Dr. Carter Woodson, he's the founder of what we know as Black History Month. Quote 3 today reads, "It was well understood that if by the teaching of history, European man could be further assured of his superiority, and the Negro could be made to feel that he has always been a failure, and that the subjection of his will to some other race is necessary, the freedman then would still be a slave. If you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. When you determine what a man shall think, you do not have to concern yourself about what he will do." I chose to read this one. There's a lot in here. Number 1, we're going to also provide additional proof of claim that the European is the freedman based on their own document. So we can see here when we let another group of people tell us who we are, they're going to always put us in that failure state. We're also showing through this channel that we were not the slave. We're actually prisoners of war on our own land. Each week we give you a different invention, which is a derivative of an industry, which is a derivative of manufacturing. which is a derivative of goods being sold around the world from these inventors. So lastly, if you control what a man thinks, you don't have to worry about his actions. That speaks volumes. If you're telling our group through critical race theory now, which has been a topic since the pandemic, that, you know, certain things can't be told to us about our group, then what happens is you have young men and middle-aged men not wanting to be the best that they possibly can be, because you've got this false narrative of always being a failure or less than drilled into your head. So that's why that quote sticks out to me, especially with reading the Jim Crow era, how our grandparents had to go through back doors, through public facilities and stuff like that. Yeah, we're free thinkers over here, so they'd have no idea what we're going to do. And I think our actions have spoke on that. I'll pass the mic.
No, definitely great quote for this week. Agree with everything you stated right there. And like I said, we'll just keep reiterating this, and we'll keep seeing that same thing throughout the timeline of our history of this government's history. So yeah, we just pretty much debunking that. Like you said, we're giving the inventor every week. We're showing you these inventions that led to industries that led to worldwide industries at that. So again, just debunking the narratives and rewriting that narrative in regards to our people. So next here, I will go ahead and read the legal definitions and maroon historical points. Number 1, American, indigenous to America. Number 2, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Number 4, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who was captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number 5, school, any institution in which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Number 6, education, an enlightening experience. And number 7, recovery, a return to a normal state of health, mind, or strength, the action or process of regaining possession of something stolen or lost. And last but not least, the maroon historical points. Number 1 was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number 2, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number 3, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number 4, maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. And number 5, maroons knew their European enemies' language, defenses, and plans. And those were the legal definitions and maroon historical points. All right, and before we jump into our continued reading of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, definitely just wanted to highlight some things and actually come back to some things that we did last week while discussing Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination, who was actually behind it. One of those things was that Militia Act. And while going back and rereading through it, we was actually able to pinpoint some things I think that are really going to be beneficial for our group, just in regards to, again, identifying who we are, making sure that we aren't placing ourselves in that minority or that lower position as a group of people. Like we said, throughout this history, we've been known to be the slave. Again, who told us that we were the slave? This government, their textbooks. So again, making sure that we're separating ourselves from these labels and these narratives that have been put on us throughout this time, but also looking into how this European moves, how they say, you know what, we have to practice the first law of nature, which is self-preservation, and that's how they did it with this Militia Act. So we'll start off today with that, and then we'll jump into that 1964 Civil Rights Act. All right. Can you all see it?
Yep.
Good to go? All right. Let me move this out the way. All right, all right. So the first thing we definitely wanted to highlight, of course, we understood that, yes, some people won't be with the picking up of weapons, but that doesn't mean that they weren't for the support of those that were. We see that was highlighted within this first little paragraph or your first paragraph regarding the Quakers here. Understanding that they weren't, again, for the guns, but they were for people picking up them to, of course, protect themselves as well as the Quakers. But we also saw that there was a limit of how far this group or how long this duration to protect each other was for. And it usually was that 3 days. So I'm gonna read off here. Let me see, I'm gonna start which articles of war. So which articles of war, when made as aforesaid, shall be printed and distributed to the captains of the several companies and by them distinctly read to their respective companies. And all and every captain, lieutenant, ensign, or other freedmen, we're gonna come back to that, but definitely put that feather in your cap, or other freedmen who shall, after a 3-day consideration of the said articles, voluntarily sign the same in the presence of some one justice of peace, acknowledging his having pursued or perused or heard the same distinctly read, and that he has well considered thereof and is willing to be bound and governed by the promises, obedience thereto, and to his officers accordingly. So again, as I stated before, at least having to do 3 days, if you're going to actually be a part of this militia, whenever called upon, you have to be willing to at least have 3 days to actually, again, defend and fight for your group of people. But also, as I kind of preferenced the beginning, we always get talked about, who this actual freedmen and these freedmen people were. And again, this is highlighting exactly who they were, these Europeans. And again, these are Europeans who are colonists, because this is, again, before 1776, which is the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, because this is 1755. So we know specifically that they're talking about a group of Europeans. So again, why do we continue to put ourselves in these people's shoes when the actual documents are showing exactly who they were? Anybody kind of want to build off of that?
Yeah, that point jumps out. If you can read those last 3 paragraphs, that's really where it jumps out. In addition to the freedmen part, we broke that down on Copper Empress channel, where we tied the Homestead Act to the Emancipation Proclamation to Special Order 15, and then to the Freedmen's Bureau Act, showing that it didn't pertain to us. This is just another document showing proof of claim that the freedmen were actually those militia people. But if Chief Quietwater can build on that, but if you can read that, provided always, those last little 3 paragraphs, we want to see where did they get the idea to start a militia and set up their laws from? Because a lot of us, as we come into this information, we have to set up our own. And so we want to see in these last 3 little paragraphs right here, what their terms of being a part of the militia was and who did they get their rules and regulations from. Chief Quietwater, you want to share?
I agree with both of you. And like you said, I think it's important as well to see where this all came from. Where did they get their information from? So I definitely agree with you too.
All right, I'll go ahead and continue here. Provided always that the articles so to be made and established shall contain nothing repugnant, but be as near as possible conformable to the military laws of Great Britain and to the articles of war made and established by His Majesty. So bam, like you just highlighted, who were they getting these rules from, or these orders or disapproval from rather? And it's showing here Great Britain and by the laws of His Majesty, basically the King of Great Britain. In pursuance of the last act of Parliament for the punishing mutiny and desertion, the different circumstances of this province compared with Great Britain and of a voluntary militia of freemen compared with mercenary standing troops being duly weighed and maturely considered. You kind of want to stop right there and just unpack that?
Yeah, we can stop right there. We don't have to read the other parts, but we definitely, you can drill on that and then we'll, yep.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, like you highlighted, who were they getting this authority from? Who were they getting this approval from? And again, highlighting Great Britain. So again, these are Europeans. These aren't Americans. Yet today, you see a quote unquote white person, and it's automatically assumed that they're the American, while we get called African American, Afro American, colored Negro, so forth and so forth throughout history. But again, this is clearly stating who they are, where they come from, and who they got their approval from, which is Great Britain and Her Majesty.
Correct. And I would just add to that, when we see that term freeman, we got to understand that was the king in Britain giving the people in North America permission to govern themselves. That's why that term freeman comes up. They're still under Great Britain's majesty rules of arts of war, but they get termed as freemen because under European form of government, peasants could not. That was your bloodline. If you were a peasant in Europe, everybody in your family would stay a peasant. So these people come over here, they create a providence, and then they eventually declare their independence from their majesty, and they're able to enjoy a life that they've never been able to enjoy at another group of people's expense. Who's that people? That's us. I'll stop right there.
Any thoughts on that cheap quality water?
Give me 1 second, I'm sorry.
Not good.
Just let me.
And we just wanted to bring this up just to the viewer. We'll drop this in the chat as well so that you can look at this document at your own time. The whole thing is just understanding, reading the documents for ourselves and collectively understanding what the history on this land is, and stop letting people tell us different versions of lies about what happened. That's ultimately what we're doing. If we collectively all know what's going on, then it's impossible for them to run game on us. You got it, Chief Biko.
Correct. Excellent point. And that's pretty much just going to lead us exactly into our continued readings of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And before we even jump into that, I definitely just wanted to bring up again, just to continue to reiterate what our people were actually trying to get done. Again, it really wasn't about no voting. It was about ending Jim Crow laws. And, a lot of scholars will say, again, it was about voting, ending discrimination, but this is exactly what it was for. Stop the violent acts of Jim Crow. So as we just read through a couple of these before we jump back into the 1964 Civil Rights Act, just going to show you exactly who they were specifically targeting. So up here, we got nurses. So no person or corporation shall require any white female nurse to nurse in wards or rooms in hospitals, either public or private, in which Negro men are placed. This is coming from Alabama. Buses, all passenger stations in the state operated by any motor transportation company shall have separate waiting rooms or space and separate ticket windows for the white and colored races. Another Alabama. Jump down and show some more states here. So we have here intermarriage, the marriage of a person of Caucasian blood with a Negro, Mongolian, Malay, or Hindu shall be null and void. As Arizona. Intermarriage again, all marriages between a white person and a Negro, or between a white person and a person of Negro descent to the 4th generation inclusive are hereby forever prohibited. That was Florida. We got cohabitation, any Negro man and white woman, or any white man and Negro woman who are not married to each other, who shall habitually live in and occupy in the nighttime the same room, shall each be punished by imprisonment not exceeding 12 months or by fine not exceeding $500. Another Florida one. So again, just highlighting exactly who these Jim Crow laws were against, and it's specifically targeting the Negro. And as of, January 22nd, 2023, we have not seen any reference to the Negro in the civil rights document, whether it be 1957 one or this 1964 one. So again, as we continue to read through them, people in the chat, continue to, read with us, and let's just see if we see anything regarding the Negro. Because as of right now, the only thing that we've seen that specifically addresses the Negro in any federal document has been that Indian Treaty of 1866. And that's the only one. And we look at that one as saying that the Negro had the same rights and privileges as the Choctaw and Chickasaw within their government, as well as just within their whole structure. That's the only document. But again, they'll tell you that this document that we're about to read, this 1964 one, is to specifically end discrimination against Negroes. But as I just stated, we have not seen the word Negro in these documents yet. So I believe last week we left off on section C. I'll pick up here and then we'll go from there. So section C, it shall be an unlawful employment practice for a labor organization to exclude or to expel from its membership or otherwise to discriminate against any individual because of his race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, to limit, segregate, or classify his membership, or to classify or fail or refuse to refer for employment any individual in any way which would deprive or tend to deprive any individual of employment opportunities, or would limit such employment opportunities or otherwise adversely affect his status as an employee or as an applicant for employment because of such individual's race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Again, nothing yet regarding the Negro, or to cause or attempt to cause an employer to discriminate against an individual in violation of this section. It shall be an unlawful employment practice for any employer, labor organization, or joint labor management committee controlling apprenticeship or other training or retraining, including on-the-job training programs, to discriminate against any individual because of his race, color, religion, sex, or national origin in admission to or employment in any program established to provide apprenticeship or other training. So I'll stop right there and just unpack exactly what that was. Again, nothing specific to the Negro. They're talking about discrimination against, again, sex, religion, national origin, et cetera, et cetera. But what we just read in those Jim Crow laws, they weren't referring to other groups of races, color, religion, sex. None of that stuff was actually being targeted in those Jim Crow laws. Again, as stated before, these civil rights acts are supposedly for the ending of said Jim Crow laws, as well as discrimination towards the Negro, yet nothing within these acts are specifically addressing the Negro. So again, we have to ask, why do we as a group think that these civil rights acts apply to us? Why do our so-called scholars say that these civil rights acts apply to us when there's nothing specifically addressing our group of people or the classification of our group of people at this time? And I'll let you build off of that, Chief Alligator. But that's just a question I have for the viewer. Why is that, and why do we think that is, that these scholars continue to say that this was for our group of people?
Right. So what we're seeing right now, we're in the middle, we're in Jim Crow era, 1964, and understanding that the United States government is a corporation. At this point, what it's doing is it's marketing to the world. It's now opening its doors for all people around the world to come. The downside for the Negro, Black, and colored is that all the damage that was done to you since the Indian Removal Act from 1830 to 1964, because they never specifically added us into the language of these acts, it allowed the United States government not to amend and right its wrongs that it did against us. It's basically what happened. So yes, we do get default benefits of this act, but no specific damage could ever be repaired by this act because it doesn't specifically cite to us. And that was the trick that they ran on our grandparents. I'll stop right there.
For sure. For sure. And just kind of highlights again, I know you brought it up earlier during the opening bill with the critical race theory. Pretty much is how they're erasing not only our history, but just American history in general. They say, you know what, there's no need for us to discuss this And you got to really sit back and say, okay, why would they do such a thing? Why would they not want to teach the history? And pretty much what I came up with the conclusion is, hey, they just don't, they're in the end game of trying to erase us completely, not only physically, but again, within the books, within history in general. That's the only reason I could think of why they would not want to even teach American history, period, within underneath this government. Again, we're highlighting how they're already replacing our group of people by allowing Ukraine refugees, Afghanistan refugees in here, and not only allowing them homes and stuff here, but also giving them the fiat to build on top of that. So again, we just have to sit back and ask ourselves and say, okay, now we really have to get our stuff together, because yeah, we're in the end game at this point.
Yes, and I definitely agree. They're literally just wiping us out in regards to, instead of reclassifying us, it's like we don't want to mention nothing about it at this point. So, and I think that people need to take it serious in regards to what is actually going on in front of our face, basically. I definitely think so.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll continue here on subsection E. Notwithstanding any other provision of this title, it shall not be an unlawful employment practice for an employer to hire and employ employees for an employment agency to classify or refer for employment any individual for a labor organization to classify its membership, or to classify or refer for employment any individual, or for an employer, labor organization, or joint labor management committee controlling apprenticeship or other training or retraining programs to admit or employ any individual in any such program on the basis of his religion, sex, or national origin, in those certain instances where religion, sex, or national origin is a bona fide occupational qualification reasonably necessary to the normal operation of that particular business or enterprise. I'm gonna stop right there because that's something that you highlighted last time we was reading this, Chief Alligator. So basically, if I'm a religious leader, or if I'm practicing some type of belief, if I write in my qualifications, my job qualifications as an employer, that said person needs to be a part of this religion, or needs to be a part of this national origin, or whatever it may be, you can do that. That's basically what this is saying when I'm reading this subsection E here. So they're basically allowing you to discriminate if you're able to show reasonable qualifications for that distinguishing quality.
What I'm looking at, what jumps out to me on this, when it says religion, sex, or national origin, is Negro a national origin? Is colored a national origin? And is Black a national origin? So again, this United States government in 1964, it's marketing to the world what it will promise to do when other nationals or nationalities come to be citizens under this government. Yeah, this is how we're going to treat your people, because the world was looking at how they were doing the Negro under the Jim Crow laws. We got it twisted, is we thought that we were being, we got included by default, but this is the United States government saying, hey, we're not going to hate on your national origin. The question our people have to ask ourselves is the Negro a national origin?
And we have to stop including ourselves and stuff. I mean, like, just reading this information is right there. We try to include ourselves in everything, but this doesn't specifically say anything for us.
Correct. And I think it's because of the training, Chief Quietwater, Chief Biko, because we were so used to somebody standing in front of us and preaching to us, that their word became golden. So if we got in the bad practice of not reading for ourselves, and this is going to ruffle a lot of the feathers within our group, because a lot of people, it benefits them for the group to not study to show themselves approved. it benefits them to be able to talk to us and play the organ loud and get us emotional and then pass donation baskets versus everybody getting their game up and increasing their mental frequency and realizing that's not what this document is saying. I'll stop right there on that.
Yes, because it's just the ignorance of us. We've never taken the time to read this information like in depth.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just the lack of knowledge that we've allowed this for so long and continue to believe because we don't want to open up our mind to the information. It's not new information because it's been there, but just open our mind and take in what we're reading here.
No, the great points made by both of you, especially that national origin one. Like you stated, Negro, is that a nation? Is that a nation? Is that a national origin? Do they have a flag, a government, things of that nature? No. Does Black have that? No, not at all. So again, just highlighting these points really shows the game that like you said, was ran on our grandparents. Yeah, because none of this stuff is, again, specific to our group of people. So it's very important for us to understand that and then again reverse engineer it at that. I'll start here with 2. And it shall not be unlawful employment, or it shall not be an unlawful employment practice for a school, college, university, or other educational institution or institution of learning to hire and employ employees of a particular religion, if such school, college, university, or other educational institution or institution of learning is in whole or in substantial part owned, supported, controlled, or managed by a particular religion or by a particular religious corporation, association, or society, or if the curriculum of such school, college, university, or other educational institution or institution of learning is directed toward the propagation of a particular religion. So again, they're not only showing that, hey, you can do it within the employment sector, but also within the educational sector. And we already know how that will, again, benefit these other groups. One group come to mind, again, the Jewish community. Okay, so we could just see again how they were really writing this stuff up to have this agenda really put in motion, not only at this time, but also in the future. That in itself is just like, okay, they're thinking steps ahead. Okay, we may not benefit from this, but our future generations will, as long as they read the documents. And again, as the old saying goes, if you want to keep something away from a Negro, a Black person, put it in a book. But again, we were to sit down and read these things and say, okay, yeah, this obviously has nothing to do with us, and it's obviously showing today of how you can get certain groups of individuals, groups of persons to have all of these rights while we're still, again, looking for breadcrumbs. Let me see, did anybody want to pick up on subsection F?
I'll do it. Subsection F, as used in this title, the phrase unlawful employment practice shall not be deemed to include any action or measure taken by an employer, labor organization, joint labor management committee, or employment agency with respect to an individual who is a member of the Communist Party of the United States or any other organization required to register as a Communist Action or Communist Front organization by final order of the Subversive Activities Control Board pursuant to the Subversive Activities Control Act of 1950. So here we're talking about unlawful employment practices, and we can see that if you're a member of the Communist Party or any organization required to register as a Communist Action or Communist Front organization, you good. As far as Allah, that's huge, because.
And what do they mean by communist?
Communism. Communism is basically a form, a way of a government governing, meaning everybody lives
under one, right?
Yeah, there is no like capitalism. You can be poor, you can be rich. Communism, there's certain things that everybody has to go through.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
that's what I'm getting from that section right there. Which is powerful because because Soviet Union was a big thing in the 80s when we were young in school.
Mhm.
Now they're talking about China, but China is also a communism type government.
Right.
Subsection G, notwithstanding any other provision of this title, it shall not be an unlawful employment practice for an employer to fail or refuse to hire and employ any individual for any position, for an employer to discharge any individual from any position, or for an employment agency to fail or refuse to refer any individual for employment in any position, or for a labor organization to fail or refuse to refer any individual for employment in any position. So basically, the business owner, the temp service that you may be going through, they have ultimate control, whether to hire you, fire you, or if you the temps company, they don't have to place you. It's their prerogative. If Section 1, the occupancy of such position or access to the premises in or upon which any part of the duties of such position is performed or is to be performed is subject to any requirement imposed in the interest of the national security of the United States under any security program in effect pursuant to or administered under any statute of the United States or any executive order of the president. So that's the first out clause. If it's some type of high clearance security, they don't have to place you on there and they don't have to keep you. I'm thinking about the airport. I've worked at the airport earlier in my life. The airport is like that. A lot of people get that badge and get that clearance, and a lot of people lose jobs at the airport because they fail a drug test. Because if anything you bump at the airport, you got to go straight take a drug test, or you may catch a DUI because you got maybe 2 to 3 years before your airport badge expires. And I remember being young in life, like in my 20s, I remember just seeing a lot of people fall off working at an airport, for example, because you lose that clearance status. So that's one way that an employer can discriminate on you. He can get rid of you because you can't renew that badge for background purposes. Y'all want to build, or y'all?
That's pretty clear cut.
Yeah.
So I'm at number 2. Subsection 2, such individual has not fulfilled or has ceased to fulfill that requirement. So going back to that clearance. Subsection H, notwithstanding any other provision of this title, it shall not be unlawful employment practice for an employer to apply different standards of compensation or different terms, conditions, or privileges of employment pursuant to a bona fide seniority or merit system. Stop right there. That basically, there's going to be levels to your employment. We see that today in today's world, right? Entry level is entry level. You have to show certain criteria. In other words, an employer can pay you different pay rates based on what your knowledge base is. So we can kind of see how they're setting up this new society, if you will, as this United States government markets to all other nations that send their citizens here. Hey, these are going to be the terms if we choose to hire your people.
That's crazy. I kind of want to build off of that, going back to what Chief Quietwater asked as far as just communism. And I just wanted to read that definition. A political theory derived from Karl Marx advocating class war and leading to a society in which all property is publicly owned and each person works and is paid according to their abilities and needs. And that's exactly what you just read right there, in regards to their seniority as well as merit. So based off of what you can provide to us, based off of your abilities, your skill set, we're going to pay you according to that, basically. So I'm like, damn, okay. So like, shoot, is this United States government already in this communist government? Like you said, you think of communism, you think of China, but not so much United States. But again, we're reading this and reading that definition. Okay, that's what.
That's the first time I've ever heard of communism referencing the United States. So that's why I was like, yeah.
Well, let's go one step further. It also said public property.
Yeah,
So the government would own everything. There would be no private property.
Wow.
Now let's go a step further, and we have stopped doing this in the last couple of weeks, reading Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Government Constitution. When they took gold and silver coin away as money, aren't you under communism now? Because the government really does own everything, because you're never buying anything.
correct. You're never buying nothing and you're never paying off nothing. So you're using, like you said, we're using these coupons at Six Flags.
Right.
Basically it. So
Let me say that one more time. Let me say that one more time, because the highly intellectual won't get it. This is common sense street smarts. If a part of communism, if you can read the definition where it talks about where everything is public, meaning the government owns everything. So when you think about the reality that in 1971, under the Gold Standard Act, the United States government severed the dollar and gold relationship. So ever since 1971 to 2023, you've never been paid money. So if you've never been paid money, then you don't outright own anything. If you don't outright own anything, isn't that communism? Because everything can go back to the state or the federal government. You can never buy something. Go ahead, y'all.
No,
That's right. And that's the first time, like I said, I've ever heard that in any documentation. So that's why it kind of stuck out to me. So you're right. You're absolutely
I
right.
can see it once you break it down, you start to see, well, shit, that's exactly what it is.
Exactly, right.
Got the money in 1971, fiat currency. All right, now we're playing ball. You don't own anything. You can't own anything because, again, you're not using the correct money to even pay off said debt to own or buy anything. So now you're just in this perpetual, again, renting of, again, these public lands, and we just go and match your fiat with your abilities to, provide for this government.
So I'll pick up here. Okay, based on merit system, or a system which measures earnings by quantity or quality of production, or to employees who work in different locations, provided that such differences are not the result of an intention to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Nor shall it be unlawful employment practice for an employer to give and to act upon the results of any professional developed ability tests, provided that such tests, its administration or action upon the results is not designed, intended, or used to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. I'm gonna stop right there because it's saying two things. A company can give you certain kind of aptitude tests, and if you don't pass them, you don't get a raise. At the same time, based on the region of the United States government where you live at, your pay can be different. So let's just think about this pandemic for a minute. A lot of people from all over the world went to Georgia. That made the cost and the increase of living rise in Georgia, right? So we all know that people that live in California make more money than people who live in Georgia or Florida, or people who live in New York, unskilled labor, like somebody working at fast food can make $20 an hour. Whereas in the South, you might be making 10. So there's two ways that they can discriminate on your pay. They can discriminate based on your aptitude, based on your test scores, right? That could be a test that's given upon hiring you, right? That can determine where you're going to be, or based on where you are and what state you live in. They can say, well, the cost of living is going to be this.
Right.
That's what jumps out to me in this, which it does kind of make sense. It does kind of make sense that it may cost a little bit more in LA than Alabama.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Correct.
So you can't really compare. And then on the test thing, I've had plenty of jobs earlier in my life where there were tests that you had to show that you qualify for this position, because there's certain benefits and fringe benefits and responsibilities that come with it. If you couldn't pass the test, I've seen cats that they just basically showed them the door. So it does weed out the riffraff well, hell, I'm thinking about really that's anything where you're going to get trained as hell. Even the military do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you can't meet a certain qualification, then yeah, you
Right.
can't proceed, you can't move forward. Yeah, they definitely do that, did that with my current job. So, yeah. Okay.
So I'm gonna pick up, where am I at? Okay. It shall not be an unlawful employment practice under this title for an employer to differentiate upon the basis of sex in determining the amount of wages or compensation paid or to be paid to employees of such employer if such differentiation is authorized by the provisions of Section 6, subsection D of the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 as amended. So that's kind of huge. Not without getting all into the weeds in that, there are some things that women probably should think twice about doing. I mean, I think that's an honest assessment. I guess like a construction worker, for example. If you want to be a construction worker, a woman's body may break down a lot quicker than that man that's out there. You know what I'm saying? Out
Right.
there doing it. So there are some things that you can do them, but your body may break down quicker. She Quiet Water, you want to build on that, being that you are a woman?
I agree. Definitely.
Not
There
one that
are.
identifies as a woman. Let's be clear, because we in
I
2020.
am a woman.
We
Okay.
got men that want to
Born
be
a
women
woman.
out here.
You said Dan that identify, and I am what I am.
That
Right.
Yeah,
you can
ain't
think
playing
whatever
that.
you want. You a man.
Right. But no, I totally agree that would make sense because that's just nature. You can't go get away from nature. Some things women can't do that men can do. So I agree with that.
All right, I'll pick up section I. Nothing contained in this title shall apply to any business or enterprise on or near an Indian reservation with respect to any publicly announced employment practice of such business or enterprise under which a preferential treatment is given to any individual business because he is an Indian living on or near a reservation. Let's stop right there. Make a note of that, Chief Quiet Water, Chief Biko, because here we see our first introduction to the term Indian, and it does make sense why nothing contained in this title shall apply to any business or enterprise on or near an Indian reservation. Why? That's a separate entity from the United States government, but here's the catch. When you look at lawful structure, those nations still come up under the parent company, the United States government.
Mm-hmm.
That's the flaw. You're not.
Wait, say that again.
Okay. Look at the United States government as the parent company.
Mm-hmm.
Under that parent company, it has civilized nations. Those civilized nations are still subordinate to the United States government.
Right.
Meaning anything that they want to do, they can't outright do it without going back to the United States government. What we're saying for our group of people is we have to set up our own so that we can meet the United States government face to face, and then we can have a conversation about the war crimes that's been committed to us, committed against our group. You cannot be subordinate to this government and expect it to repair you.
Correct.
Even though it will do it for Jewish and it will do it for other groups of people, you're gonna have to stand up because it's your land. Correct. You're gonna have to have your own entity, and then you can come to them with war crimes. You're not gonna be able to do it and be subordinate to it's like you're the employee of somebody who's the employer, and you think some kind of way you're gonna win. Like there's nothing that one of those 5 civilized tribes can do to think they're going to win against the United States government. At the end of the day, if the United States government says we ain't going to do it, then that's what it is. And that's kind of what we saw in that 1866 Indian hearing last year. Right. They're telling those 5 civilized tribes, hey, you've been discriminating against a certain group of people within your tribe. Those tribes were saying, yeah, but you've been discriminating against us since you've been on this land. Well, yeah, you could say that, but you really can't, because you're ultimately asking us to give you fiat currency, you know, for your housing of your people,
Right.
upkeep of your reservation. So it's a double-edged sword. We can't go to them, expect to be repaired at the same time. We got to stand up first, then we can come to them. Y'all want to build on that? But that's huge.
Yeah. Like you said, though, and just the clarity when you're saying entity, you're not talking about an entity underneath this government. You're talking about something separate and apart. And then coming to that table, okay, we have our own thing going on here. Now we need to have that restitution. But like you said, just coming up underneath again, like another 501c C company trying to ask for, benefits. Nah.
And still be under the control of the government.
No, I mean, how many organizations do we see like that? And what's come of it? Not a damn thing. So like you said, we have to step away, step apart, create our own, and then we can have that discussion. Because like it stated in this, what we read earlier, national origin. Getting back to your own national origin, reclaiming your nationality. Negro, Black, African American, those aren't nations, those aren't a national origin. So again, like you said, just coming together, creating our own, and then coming to that table.
Just like the founding fathers, that did the same thing. They just basically wrote out their procedure in regards to how they wanted things to go, and they did it with a small group of people, but they were all on the same page.
Right. Said we not fucking with this no more. We finna start our own thing. Damn if we do, damn if we don't. We willing to die for it.
I'll do subsection J, and the last statement I'll make on that, we're not gonna, let's try as a group of people not to beat ourselves up, because what our ancestors did was they knew we didn't have a national origin. So the only way that they could include us into this act was race. That's what we're holding on to, race.
Right.
But you got other people that are coming on this landmass, they're coming up under national origin.
Correct.
And why is it taking us so long to realize that?
I think it's self-esteem. I was sharing this with somebody earlier, and we would have to have somebody that has military experience build on this. I don't have military experience, so I can't share on this. With our group of people, when we talk to our grandparents and our aunties and our parents that were born in the 40s and the 50s, they always say, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, true.
Or if they do talk about it, they get emotional and start crying and different things like that. That rhymes to me with a veteran that comes back from war, how they don't want to talk about what happened. And so when we look at our group of people, I think I personally feel the reason why our grandparents and our parents didn't tell us about the hell they went through is because it was war and they saw a lot of fucked up shit. And so they kind of suppressed it. Just like somebody coming back from Iraq or Afghanistan, they don't talk to their parents about what actually happened. Correct. That's kind of how our elders have done us. It's like, oh, we don't want to talk about that. You want to build on
because it was really war. They have been warred against all of these years. So yeah, I never looked at it like that. That makes perfect sense. They want to forget about it. Just like you said, somebody that's coming home in the war, and I have family members that they won't utter a word about their experience over there and what they saw. So it's really the same thing, because we're talking about how we were unlawfully warred against. So same thing. Never thought about it like that.
A great point.
I'll pick up on Jay if you want to, unless you want to share something, Chief Biko.
No, just the same thing. I'm in alignment. Definitely rhymes with that. Not trying to be triggered by those memories.
Yeah.
Just trying to suppress them, compartmentalize it, and go about your day. But again, just like any type of I guess you could say therapy session, you have to address that issue. You want to move forward from it. Suppress
it is like PSTD, post-traumatic stress.
Yes.
Yeah. And we don't even realize it.
Oh, correct.
Subsection J. And it probably makes our grandparents feel less than, because the reality is they were called boys and they were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. So what grandparent wants to tell their grandchild, that story, even though it's the truth, but it's kind of like a manhood or an adulthood thing. Like, you don't want to really admit what it was that
Right.
you couldn't. I've heard some crazy Jim Crow laws, like you couldn't look at them. I mean, you had to walk on the other side of the street, you know,
Right.
got medieval.
I see a
Subsection.
couple of people, sorry, in the chat. The original Copper Empress said basically to protect us, to protect our mental. Empress Vicky J said that we need to talk about it and it is a must. I definitely agree. IG, the finisher, says people are scared of war. Our mindsets will definitely have to change, says Joshua Stewart. So we're definitely all on the same page with that.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for asking them questions. And can you ask the chat as well, Chief Quietwater, do we have any veterans in the chat? Because that's something that we need, somebody that has that actual experience. Does our history on this land, and when we look at the disconnect between our family not wanting to talk about what we went through, does that rhyme with a veteran coming back from Vietnam War, the Iraq War, how they just shut down and don't want to talk about it? I hear what Copper Empress was saying, and Empress Vicky. The only way you can recover from something is you have to go into those dark places, and you have to look at it and put it on paper, which is what we're doing on Sundays. We're looking at it and being honest with our history. It's not that we stay stuck there like we're less than, but you just move different when you understand what it is. Then you're prepared when you walk out in society. No, there's lines in the sand as far as where people can go with you before you realize, like, okay, are you trying to? It's hard for me to explain. It's like when you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I'll finish subsection J. Nothing contained in this title shall be interpreted to require any employer, employment agency, labor organization, or joint labor management committee subject to this title to grant preferential treatment to any individual or to any group because of the race, color, religion, sex, or national origin of such individual or group on account of an imbalance which may exist with respect to the total number of percentages of person of any race, color, religion, or national origin employed by any employer, referred or classified for employment by any employment agency or labor organization, admitted to membership or classified by any labor organization, or admitted to or employed in any apprenticeship or other training program in comparison with the total number or percentage of persons of such race, color, religion, sex, or national origin in any community, state, section, or other area, or in the available workforce in any community, state, section, or other area. So they're not requiring any employer, employment agency, or labor organization or joint labor management committee to grant preferential treatment to anybody, right? So even if you're the only Black, you don't get no preferential treatment. If you're the only Jew, I don't have to show you preferential treatment, even if you're outnumbered. That's what I'm taking from this subsection J.
Yeah, that's what I was taking too. Sounds like I forget what it's called, either Title 9 or Title 10 or something in regards to I think they even having a case about it now in regards to certain colleges and universities. I think Harvard and UNC, just about, you know, not having that criteria based off of race. So, okay, why do we have a race section in the application for a student if we're not discriminating? Like we're not trying to get a quota of, you know, a quota of X amount of, you know, quote unquote Black students and whatever, you know, reclassification term. That's what it definitely sounds like to me.
Right. Yeah. I can pick up. Are we gonna do the rest of it? All right. Oh, where are we at? Okay. Other unlawful employment practices, section 704A. It shall be an unlawful employment practice for any employer to discriminate against any of his employees or applicants for employment, for any employment agency to discriminate against any individual for a labor organization to discriminate against any member thereof or applicant for membership, because he has opposed any practice made an unlawful employment practice by his title or because he has made a charge, testified, assisted, or participated in any manner in an investigation, proceeding, or hearing under this title. So basically that's saying that you can't discriminate if someone has one against you, basically. Is that what that's saying? Kind of.
That's what I'm getting from it.
Yeah, okay. B, it shall be an unlawful employment practice for an employer, labor organization, or employment agency to print or publish or cause to be printed or published any notice or advertisement relating to employment by such an employer or membership in any classification or referral for employment by such an organization or relating to any classification or referral for employment by such an employment agency, indicating any preference, limitation, specification, or discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, except that such a notice or advertisement may indicate a preference, limitation, specification, or discrimination based on religion, sex, or national origin when religion, sex, or national origin is bona fide occupational qualification for employment.
Sounds like another out clause.
Out clause, right,
As
yeah.
able to, show a valid reason, and again, who is approving that said valid reason is
Exactly,
it's
right.
very subjective. It doesn't seem like they have any type of real structure in regards to that, so they're really leaving it up to that employer
Exactly.
in regards to being able to make that distinction.
Can we drill down on one thing in that last little sentence right there as well? And I'm just gonna, ask the people that are reading along, that have clicked on the link or that are in the chat, which one of these options based on this new deal that the government gave us, what option do we have? If they never specifically righted the Jim Crow laws, the only thing we could hold on to would be race. Because it says religion, sex, national origin, or race.
Right.
Yeah, based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. So that ought to be an indicator right there. Why can't we come up under national origin, y'all? Why? Only time we can say we've been discriminated against, why do we always have to go to race or color?
Right.
Or now they're saying sex. Now you got the gay movement, they're itemizing that word sex and they're emphasizing it.
Right, I was just gonna say that.
You're not recognizing what I'm identifying with, even though it's outside the scope of natural law because it's a corporation. So a corporation doesn't adhere to natural law.
Correct.
Right.
So we got to understand the two worlds that we're operating in. As long as we dishonor our ancestors by not having a national origin, we're in this make-believe world and we're going to always lose until we come back to the land and honor the confederacies and the tribes there too. Y'all want to build on that?
Yeah, it's pretty clear. I agree.
That's true. And like you stated, just I'm trying to see what they had here. It just kind of highlights again the religion, sex, and national origin, and what are the three main, I guess you could say, descriptive groups that have the most rights now. People from different national origins,
right?
Different religious groups, whether you Jewish belief or etc., and the gay community,
right?
So it just rhymes with, like you just stated, we're in this make believe world where anything is possible, basically, underneath this government structure, since it is a corporation. And again, this is just highlighting exactly who's having all the rights, and again, race and color having nothing. And that's exactly what we're falling up underneath at this point.
Exactly. Okay.
You have anybody that answered that question that Chief Alligator posed before we kind of close out for tonight?
I don't, about the veteran, I didn't see anybody that said that they were a veteran or anything. No.
Got you. But yeah, that's exactly what it seems like, man. Just trauma that doesn't want to be addressed. I know I could just speak from my own family's on family history. Definitely have a lot of veterans in my family, but it seems like, that's a subject that doesn't even get mentioned. Like, how was your time at war?
That's true.
What did you see? Like, it seems like that's a risque thing. Like, don't even mention that. That's like almost disrespectful to even ask.
That is true.
What possibly could have been seen. So it's like, I guess you can kind of liken that to, our grandparents, parents and stuff, what they kind of saw.
Correct. We don't have, at least they do have counseling that they can attend so they can get around other people who have seen what they've seen, experienced. Us as a group of people, there's no
great point
medical facility that we as a group of people have where, we can talk about, Smokey Robinson did the interview on Vlad TV, and we tried to post that clip just to re-emphasize what Jim Crow was like. Everybody of our group knows who Smokey Robinson is. He's an icon from the Motown era. He admitted that when he was touring in the Jim Crow South, he got shot at for trying to use a white person's bathroom. How many of our family members have that experience?
Right.
This man was a superstar, but under Jim Crow law, nigga, you ain't supposed to be here. Definitely not trying to use my bathroom. So I could bust at you. I ain't got to worry about the police coming, charging me with aggravated assault. Had I hit you and killed you, I ain't got to worry about the police coming, charging me with murder. Why? Because you were outside of the system. Again, when we don't talk about this, we don't know who got lynched in our families. We don't know, we don't know those men, women, and children and fathers and mothers that got lynched and got their land taken. Why? Trauma. We don't want to talk about it. But these other groups of people can come up with fabricated groups, and they've passed us. Where I'm gonna go to the gay community because that's the most, they're not even 15 years old. And you got people scared to say the word gay.
Right.
Won't say it. Their trauma is protected by this government. Negro, black, and colored is not a national origin, so this government doesn't have to protect us. I'll even tie in Joe Biden going to the Ebenezer Baptist Church last week. We don't know our history. There was no way he was supposed to be there. This man was against desegregation of school buses.
Jim Crow Joe, ain't that
this man has not done anything specifically for this group of people. He didn't even mention you in his first inaugural speech as president. So that clearly shows you that you're outside of a national origin. He can ask you for your vote and say, I got your back if you black. But when it comes to writing law, your black caucus, and I said this last week, and I'm gonna keep saying this. There is no money, so I can't say I'll put everything, I'll put X amount on it because there is no money. But they can never write a specific law for you. Notice it's always got to be the Black American and other minorities and Black American. They can never itemize you. Why? Because you're not a thing.
Right.
You're not a noun, you're an adjective. I'll stop right there on that. But we got to open our eyes to this reality. It's like we want to be included. And it's like they'll talk around us and make us feel like we're a part of. But when it comes to getting something specifically, it never happens.
It's why you titled this video tonight, The Illusion of Inclusion, basically.
Correct.
They talk all around us and make us feel good and build on our emotions, and we fall for it. We willingly participate in what they give us, what they dish out. We just take it. We beg for more.
It's like getting old tickets to a football game. Everybody else is in the stadium celebrating. You outside, you just hearing them celebrate. But you like, yeah, winning. You ain't even watching the game. They gave you 2-week old tickets, and we at the game. Nah, you're not at nothing.
That's true. That's a good one.
So it's just I think y'all hit the nail on the head. with this one. We halfway through this. We halfway through this one. Working our way towards that 1968 one. So slowly just chipping away at this, going through the timeline. So definitely appreciate everybody in the chat.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Original Copper Empress, everyone. So yeah, we're gonna keep this thing rolling, y'all.
Somebody, I just took a peek at it. Miss Lita said it doesn't exist in law. And yeah, that's exactly right. I guess that shows the power of media, because through the television, we'll get people who look like us that they'll use words like minority and underprivileged and Afro-American. Pay attention to people who look like us when they're talking on TV. They'll call you let me say it correctly. They will throw out 4 different terms when referring to us, because we have to stop identifying as Afro-American, Black American. They'll say blacks, then they'll turn around and say Afro-American, and then they'll turn around and say minority and underprivileged people. We have to
color.
asking ourselves, so are you saying who is that?
Yeah.
We got to start putting them on. Who the fuck is an underprivileged person?
Like you said before too, we got to learn how to say no. Even going back to the Joe Biden thing, and just loud. We just showed last week who executed the neutralization of Dr. Martin Luther King, which was his government. And then we allow this government's commander-in-chief to walk in this man's church and just out there standing around.
Man, that's a slap in the face.
Slap in the face. Again, because we don't understand this shit and we don't know how to say no. Like, fuck no, you can't come. Ain't been the president that came before. You damn sure ain't finna be the first one. But again, we just go along to get along, and again, don't understand this history, hence why we have fucked up politics, but again, just don't know how to say no. We just accept everything. Let's just go back to what you were saying. No, you can't call us African American. You can't call us Black. I don't care how much you want to say Black is more than this. That's cool. But when they addressing our group of people, we can't allow them to call us that. Because what has it gotten us? Like she said, it's not in law. So what has it gotten us? Not a damn thing. Ignore it.
Can we throw one more thing in? As we do this, what we're also showing is the study committee for reparations that is supposed to be coming up under the Black Congressional Caucus. Those that are listening to this channel and reading these documents on their own, we're also exposing the flaws amongst the people who are supposed to be spearheading, investigating the history of what's happened to us. More recently, it would be that 1866 Indian Treaty hearing, where they in that hearing, they were trying to make us out to be the freedmen. And it's mighty interesting that, quote unquote, everyday people who aren't public servants, the people in the chat, the people on this channel, we've already debunked who the freedman is. So it shows the level of incompetency amongst those that are supposed to be spearheading any type of justice for this group. Y'all don't know what the fuck y'all talking about.
But do you think it's incompetence though, or do you think they know what they're doing?
Incompetence. To me, I think it's incompetence because it rhymes with the HBCUs. If we're going to look at it like we're owners, if we're saying we're from this land, then what we're saying is we're the owners. If you use the example of an HBCU and you look at these colleges and say, okay, how long have the living, just ask questions. How long have the living situations been below standard?
Right.
How long have your different sports programs been underachieving? And then you link that directly to the trustees and the faculty.
Right.
How long have y'all been there with all of this subpar behavior? And if it's an alignment, then you got to go. And it's the same thing with these public servants that are in place that's supposed to be heading this reparations talk and any other talk for the group of people. Your tenure in office actually shows your incompetency. You've been there too long for the ball not to move.
Right.
No results from it.
Right. Just like the Congressional Black Caucus.
Yeah, you're not better than. You're supposed to serve the people, but they get it fucked up in their mind like they're better than. But what we're doing is we're exposing. You really don't know what the hell you're talking about.
True.
You sitting up here saying we slaves, and we're telling you from an owner standpoint, somebody from the land, you can't have thousands of towns and create all these industries and then fight in every war on this land and then turn around and tell me I'm the slave.
Makes no sense. Impossible. It's impossible.
Shit crazy. But
And Copper Empress said they gotta go, but I'm gonna ask a harder question, Copper Empress. If they all gotta step down, then what happens after that?
Who's
Let me
gonna
just
step up?
Okay, so let's just say you start egging them every time they come out in public. Let's say we start egging them, like letting the world know you do not represent us. Okay, so then what's the next step? We would have to fill those positions because we got the wrong people in the rooms. And even though some of those people may be from our lineage, the truth may hurt, but it still doesn't change. You don't know what you're doing. It's time to rotate out the seat. You've been in there too long. You've been in there too long for nothing to change. Y'all can't even agree to study the shit.
yeah, facts.
We've been studying this for 3 years. We are doing the work. Us and everybody in this chat, everybody who's got a channel about what's happened to us, we are actually studying it, and we know more about the issue than the people who's got public servant positions, getting a salary for it.
Right.
We doing it off the strength of who we are. And you Negroes can't sit down and have a conversation with us based on record. We ain't talk about debating. Sheila Jackson Lee, Maxine Waters, anybody from the 5 civilized tribes. You cannot have your communication personnel come and provide proof of claim and show us otherwise. You don't know enough. And you're too arrogant to step down and say you don't know.
Like you said, they collecting them checks on the clock. They ain't doing a damn thing. Not for our group.
I'm gonna turn down on that one. And what y'all got on closing? Because it get frustrating, man, because they make us look stupid as a group of people. Now, I was to answer your question, Chief Quietwater, the European knows who the freedman is.
Right. Well, that's what I was referencing. Yeah.
We don't know though.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay. I got your statement mixed up then. No, right. It's sad that they know more about us and our history than we do, which is why they continue to be able to pull the moves that they move, how they maneuver all around us to get what they want and to continue to keep us asleep and begging to be included.
In these books that they're writing, that's another thing we're gonna bump heads with is the scholars that are pushing this Afro-American thing. There's a lot of nonprofit organizations that popped up after the 60s and started pushing the whole, we from Africa theory. It doesn't make sense when you apply logic to it. If my great-grandparents are buried in this land and I got another group of people came through Ellis Island that they grandparents weren't even buried in this land, how the hell are they claiming to be American before me? And I got all these goddamn inventions from different tribes under different confederacies from different Americans on this land who look like me, but you trying to tell me I'm from somewhere else.
It's so simple.
And then the people in Oklahoma on reservations who look like Asians, show me what they invented. If you're supposed to be the American, why people come here don't want to be like you?
Right.
Why didn't you create blues? Why didn't you create rock and roll? Why weren't the Europeans stealing your form of music in the 40s, 50s, and 60s? What do you have claim to for you to be the American?
Not a damn thing.
Nothing.
How we fight in every fucking war, created every music genre, created all these inventions for the world, but you telling me my people from Africa, when I can look at my family tree and see that my shit go back to the 1800s, I got people buried in this land.
Facts.
Shit's stupid.
What they say, what was it, the kayak? They got the kayak on the invention list. But nah, yeah, I mean, it's straight up though. Ain't nobody trying to be like y'all. That in itself should show who we are as a group.
Right. We just got to recognize it.
Absolutely. But
we're doing it.
Huh?
No, I was just saying we're doing it collectively, man. 1 week at a time, we continue to show up. Like I said, we're doing it out of love for the group of people. And the closer we get to the big document, which is the 1960 rights, once we get to that 1968 Indian Rights Act, it's over with then. Because then we'll, you know, we're walking through this now, but we already know, everybody that's been following us as we read this document, we know Negro, color, and Afro-American is not in this document. So we already see there's a flaw because we know there was Jim Crow laws specifically targeting the Negro, black, and color. We don't see nothing in this document in 1964 saying Negro, black, and color, but you got an Indian Civil Rights Act in 1968. But then you telling Generation X that was born a decade later in the 1970s that we African American. So it's a whole lot of people who look like us that's going to, we caught you in your lie. You never thought we'll read the document. You're full of shit.
Right.
Facts. Facts.
All right. Good build tonight.
Great build, great build.
Thank you to everyone that's in the chat and all your interaction.
Of course, always. Till next time. Get this off here.
Man, we had 55 people in there tonight. Okay.
Still live on YouTube.